that was either in the cemetery or right at the base of the cemetery, it comes running out in the opposite direction and runs up into the swamp. So the dog man is going this way, deer comes this way.
Back to the I Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin. Today we have on the wonderful Mr. Mark Ellis from the North American Dogman Project Mississippi chapter. He might correct me on how that's all said. I might even put in the name incorrectly. There's a lot of acronyms I'm trying to remember, guys. I'm still relatively new at this, but there's always some program or some association that I don't remember all the names. So hopefully you guys enjoy what you like on the show, and I will earn your subscription today. Just go over and do the thing that you do on YouTube, like and subscribe, go over on Rumble and follow me over there. You can also find me on multiple different formats. I just started TikTok, and I'll be putting some shorts over there if you want to contact me through there. If you have a story, reach out. You can contact me through the iJupiterPodcast@gmail.com, and you can go ahead and get yourself some shirts. I still have to change this. This is me, guys. You know me. It says description below, but there's an S missing. But if you guys want to get some merch, there's a there's a link in the bottom that you can click on and go ahead and get yourself some cool shirt and some merch. If you're willing to support the channel, you can also become a member and get some episodes earlier than they normally come out, which they come out every Tuesday at 3:30 either Mountain Time or Central Time, depending on what time of year it is, because Mexico does not have daylight savings time. And every Friday you can catch me live at 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, and I always have on some very interesting people. We discuss all topics just like today. So please, with all that out of the way, let's welcome to the I Jupiter podcast Mr. Marcus Ellis.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, look, Tom, it's encryption. It's decryption. You got to decrypt everything to be able to get your merch. So once we decrypt your stuff, then we can get your stuff. So
you're okay. Trying to help me out. You're helping me out and post.
Don't worry about that. Hey, you got to help a brother out, man. I mean,
yeah. Plus, I'm in the cryptids.
Don't worry about description.
Right.
Yeah, decrypt. So yeah, you're in good company, brother.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you came on. I reached out to you on, I think it was Facebook Messenger, and you were so kind as to say, of course I'll have you on. And we had a little problems with the computer, but we're here now, dude. So it's good to have you on. Please do me a favor, and the rest of the people from the I. Yeah, the privilege is all mine. It's all on the side, dude. I promise you. All the people out there, please tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you, my friend.
Okay, well, you can find me at, of course, at North American Dogman Project.com. I am the state representative for Mississippi, which is something that is new. I don't think they've had a representative for Mississippi, so that's the first place you can find me. I just got on board there. Really, not even a month, so it's kind of a new position for me and stuff, and I was tickled and honored to be asked and humbled, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a great organization, and it's that hub where you can go to, where if you have an encounter with the dogman creature, it's a place that you can go to where you can report it, and we'll take you seriously. We won't laugh at you. If you want to be kept in confidence, that whole thing. So it's a place where um, just about no matter what state you're in, you can go there and report your sighting and encounter. And, of course, we can talk about that a little more. But, to answer your question, I'm also I have my own website. It's www.unexplainedmississippi.com. That's kind of my, personal deal. At Facebook, good grief. Marcus Ellis, if you find Marcus Ellis and you see the dog man up at the top, you got the right Marcus Ellis.
All right.
And then I've got Unexplained Mississippi as a Facebook page. And I just created the North American Dogman Project Mississippi chapter Facebook group. So,
Okay.
last thing, my email address is unexplainedms@gmail.com.
Okay.
So if you want to reach out and send me an email or contact me there, um, I got a YouTube channel, Unexplained Mississippi. Kind of notice a pattern there.
Yes, everything's quite
So
unexplained.
and quite Mississippi, quite
Yes.
Mississippi too.
Yes.
Um,
Well, do me a
and
favor,
and
dude.
and I, and I
When we're done
push
with
that.
this, could you send me all of those links? That way I can go ahead and put them at the bottom of this episode that people who want to reach out to you,
I
because yes.
certainly will.
Thank you.
I'll be happy to do that. Um, and of course, I mean, I'm stressing the Mississippi thing for this reason. People here in the South, when it comes to the unknown, when it comes to the unexplained, when it comes to Bigfoot, when it comes to Dogman, uh, things like that, we tend to be a little tight-lipped. It's the Bible Belt,
It's a
and
cultural thing. Yes.
it's a cultural thing, right? And people people are really hesitant to just, oh, I saw a dog man this past weekend. Come on, pal, let me tell you about it at the water cooler. That's not going to happen. Um, so there just hasn't been much of a presence for the state of Mississippi when it comes to things like this, and that's what I'm endeavoring to change. People need somebody to talk to, and I tell everybody this when they were talking with me about coming on board the NADP. I made it very clear. I'm not trying to be a rock star. I'm not trying to get on a TV show. I don't give a flip about that. Um, I want to talk to people. I want to hear their story. I want to document it. But the most important thing to me is to help people. And that's the heart of this thing, because people people encounter these things that they've been told all their life that doesn't exist. That's not
Right.
real. That's fake. That there's no way that's real. And then they bump into them. I'll tell you this real quick. I was an investigator with MUFON. I was a field investigator with them for close to 5 years. I also
Wow.
worked with their section that dealt with alien abduction, the experiencer resource team, and MUFON's a really great group. I had to step away because of my job, my day job, um, and I hated to do that, but it was just something that I had to do to kind of keep my sanity and pay the bills and all that
Right.
good
Right.
stuff. But
Like everybody, my friend. We all have to do that.
right, right, exactly. But uh, the thing of it is, when I would talk to people that had seen, UAP, and even the times that I talked to people who had encounters with beings and entities that were not human, they would tell me their story. That they would lay it all out, and then they would pause, and then they would go, have you ever heard anybody say something like that before? Have you ever heard a story like that? And I would go, absolutely, I've heard that story before, and they would go, "Oh, thank God! I thought I was going
Right.
crazy."
Right, dude.
They thought,
Makes so much
I,
sense.
I, I thought I was losing my mind, and um, you could just tell the relief and the weight that come off their shoulders. So I found that out through helping people and talking with UFO witnesses and abductees about through MUFON, and I saw the importance of, you don't be selfish, you don't burn people, you be honest, and you help people, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I think most of the time
I'm
people
not
just need
perfect.
someone like you were saying. I think most of the time people just have to have someone that listens to them, because you're like you were saying,
Absolutely.
you're running across these people are running across these beings that are not supposed to exist, or no during no scientific literature or any published papers that you will find anywhere in the world that are scientifically like backed by any university or anything. And they think that they're
Right.
absolutely going insane. They're afraid to go in the woods. They can't go out and hunt or fish anymore because of, what I
Yes.
mean. They have a lot of they have a lot of anxiety incorporated with now going out in the woods. And then if they run across a person like yourself, or they run across a show like this or many others, they'll go, wait a minute,
Right.
maybe it's not me. And it's very commendable, dude. It's a commendable thing to do, that you would take a part of your time to help somebody go and enjoy the great American outdoors again.
Sure. I mean, and that's a two-way street. Um, your podcast and a handful of others that I'm familiar with and really admire and respect, they do the same thing. They're there to give that person an outlet. And I've heard the same thing. I bet you have too. They'll tell you their story and they'll go, you know, I thought I was losing my mind,
Oh yeah.
and you're listening to me and you're not judging me and thinking I'm crazy. So the podcast, the guys like you, and again some others that are doing it in that type of manner where they really focus on listening to what the witness is, the experiencer is saying. You can't put a price tag on that. That's just, you can't do it. So
Yeah,
that's what I
it's the
try
same
to do.
thing with
So,
I'm a war vet. I am a U.S. Army vet, and
oh
I've
man,
had a lot of problems with
thank you for your
anxiety.
service.
I don't know. I never know what to say to that, but you're welcome, I guess. I don't know. It's just something I wanted to do, and I had
My,
to get
my
out of a
dad
certain
was
situation.
world. My
World
dad
War
was
II.
World War II Navy. You probably don't
That's my
like Navy
grandfather.
guys, but
No, well, no, we don't. Dude, we need somebody in the water, man. I just didn't want to be in the water.
that too. Somebody's
Put me
got to
on
get
land.
wet.
I'll jump out of an airplane if you want me to. I never did that. I didn't go to airborne school or anything like that. But I'll go. I just put me on the land. I'll dig the trench. I'll do whatever you need. But I don't want to be
There
in
you go.
the water or in aircraft. I'm not a big fan of any of that. But I was dealing with anxiety really bad. Like after about 3 years after leaving the military, it kind of just hit me all at one time, and I thought I was losing my mind too. And then like I started realizing, well, everyone kind of has something that they're dealing with, and it was, you sit down with like a therapist for a minute, and they just go, this is quite normal in a lot of people, and like you go, oh, okay, I thought it was just me. And
Hmm.
so now imagine being so, because I'm like I've mentioned this before. You go to your war zone. You have your plan, you have your command structure, you have what you're going to do, what your job's going to be, it's going to be crazy, but you also know it's human in nature.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now imagine anxiety of seeing something that doesn't exist, that reverberates your chest, that screams at you, that maybe bluff charges you or
Yep.
attacks you in some type of way, and you don't know
Had
what to
that.
think. Oh yeah, well, let's do that, man. How did this all start for you? What happened? What
Well, I
got you
mean,
into this?
it started really, really young, really early. I was a kid growing up in the 70s, and of course, back in the 70s, you had the Marvel comics were coming out. They were
Oh
really
yeah.
cool and stuff, and then um, you had all these really great old corny, cheesy 70 horror movies. And, I ate that stuff up. But then I saw the Patterson Gimlin film.
Oof.
And the minute I saw that film, I was like, holy, this is a monster. These guys filmed a monster. That's real. And it's funny how that watching that film way back in the 70s, one of my best friends and my mentor is a Bigfooter. I bet you've heard of him by the name of M.K. Davis.
I love MK
And
Davis. I've had him on the show twice.
yes, yeah, MK, has studied the Patterson Gimlin film for the last 20 something plus years.
Oh
And
yeah.
anyway, I'll tie back into MK here in just a second, uh, but because it's just funny how that worked out. But anyway, in the 70s, we had this great big paranormal boom, as I call it. You had the Patterson Gimlin film. You had the Loch Ness Monster. You had the Mothman stuff was
Oh,
still kind of fresh in
Amityville
people's
Horror.
minds.
Amityville Horror.
The Amityville Horror,
Yeah.
and you've got all these documentaries. The Bermuda Triangle. This
Yeah.
stuff was on front page news. They were in documentaries. They were on TV shows. They were making movies about. And again, I just soaked this stuff up. So here's mom and dad. They're taking me to church and stuff, and every chance I could pull, the preacher or the pastor off to the side, I would nudge him and I'd go, "Hey, can you tell me about ghosts, and can you tell me about this, and demons and stuff like this?" And of course, they look at you like, "Wow, this is a weird little kid," but but I didn't care. I wanted to learn. So that just took me from the 70s all the way up to pretty much now. The big thing that happened for me in the 80s was the abduction phenomena. That UFOs, all that. Oh, and in the 70s, we had a huge flap here in the southeast, and UFOs were all over the place
You talking about
here
Fife,
in the
Alabama?
south.
Fife, Alabama, right?
I'm
That
not
was a
sure
big
about
one.
Fife,
I think.
Alabama, but
Right.
we had a lot of stuff. We had right here in Mississippi, 73. We had the Pascagoula abduction, the Hickson Parker abduction took place, and leading up to and right after the Hickson Parker abduction, it was just crazy UFO stuff here in Mississippi, in the South. Again, the Southeast period. So I just from that moment on, I was immersed, and any chance I could buy a book, a magazine, a newspaper, watch a movie, I just soaked this stuff up like a sponge. And that and the going to church thing, that I can't tell you how much that saved my bacon when I first got out into the field.
Okay.
Um, and again, I'm jumping ahead, but I'll just put this in your mind so you can come back to it. But I had an encounter with a demonic entity while I was out in a place doing, of all things, a Bigfoot investigation.
Okay.
So but the 80s abduction thing, what was going on with Whitley Strieber and Bud Hopkins, and that just throwed more logs onto the fire. And then I got into music, and so for the next 20 some odd years, I was a musician. And then about 9 years ago, my band, we split up, and I realized I had just way too much time on my hands. And about the time I realized I had all this time, I had some strange things happening here on my property, and I recognized it as possible Bigfoot activity. So I reached out to this group, and this group says, "Hey, do you know MK Davis?" And I'm sitting here, scratching my head. MK Davis, MK Davis. And I said, "Do you mean?" And I hope MK doesn't get mad at me for saying his first name, but I said, "Do you you mean Marlon Davis? And they're like, yeah, you know him? I'm like, yeah, dude, we used to go to church together.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
I'm like, what about MK? Yes. And that's why I say the way this all ties in.
That's
And
incredible.
they said, yeah, MK is one of the big name guys in the Bigfoot world. Here's his number. So I called MK and he walked me through what was going on here on my property, and helped me with some answers. And I stewed on this for a couple of weeks. And finally, I picked up the phone and I called him back and I said, MK, I want to ask you a question. And he says, what? I said, would you consider taking me under your wing, teaching me, training me, you know, giving me some of the knowledge that you've got? Because I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do this Bigfoot thing too. And he's like, heck yeah, I'll do it. So he
Okay.
took me in and he became my mentor and my instructor. And he taught me what to do. He taught me what not to do. And we went on just bukus of adventures together. And, um, everything was fine up until the time COVID hit. So when COVID hit, you're isolated and you're having to shut yourself off. And that's when I joined up with MUFON. I had gotten kind of the spark about, a renewed interest in UFOs. So you're sitting at the house, you can't go talk to people, you can't go out and do stuff. So I joined MUFON and I passed all my tests and got my certification. And I learned just tons from them about how to conduct an investigation, how to do research, what to do, what not to do, how to treat people. Which I didn't have a problem with that because, I love everybody. I don't mistreat people, but the point is between MK and MUFON, it just made me a better investigator. It made me a better researcher. And, it kind of brings us to where we are today. Over the last couple of years, I had really gotten interested in the dogman phenomenon. And I'll tell you a funny story. I went to a conference, a little small conference, and I went with MK because MK was doing a presentation. And I met some people there, and I met, this really cool guy that was one of MK's buddies. And we're sitting next to each other. And one of the presenters, he got up and did his spiel about Bigfoot. And, he opened it up to questions and answers. And, 8, 9, 10 years ago, Dogman was kind of on the periphery. It wasn't out there, kind of in the forefront like it is now. And this is part of the reason why. This lady raises her hands and says, I want to ask a question. And he's like, what? What's this Dogman thing? What is this deal about Dogman? This werewolf looking thing. And this guy stood up and he said, there is no such thing as Dogman. Dogman does not exist. It's not real. All of your Dogman encounters are nothing but misidentified Bigfoot sightings.
Oh my God.
And I
All
and
right.
I sat there and I look at my friend and my friend looks at me and we lean over to each other and we go, there's something to this Dogman thing now, right? And
Right.
because anybody that's going to stand up there and just know,
Means that they're hiding something.
it
Yes.
well, I don't think it's that it was hiding something. It was just that, you've got a one-track mind.
Okay.
You can't you can't you can't be an investigator and just be walled up and closed up. You've got to be able to explore possibilities, as Fox Mulder, once said. You've got to go, okay, what you saw, and if that's what they said they saw, note it, document it, listen to them. They're probably on to something. And now here we are, 2025, and we know now that there's something to this dog man thing, and
Oh yeah.
people were back then. They were sitting there going, no, there's no such thing as dog man. These are just Bigfoots with an extended face. They've got a
Mm-hmm.
snout or whatever. It's not it's not a werewolf. And of course, then here comes Linda Godfrey, and she blows the lid off even further with the Beast of Bray Road deal that she started. And I just realized at that point years ago, okay, there really is something to Dogman.
Right.
And I had a chance to investigate a case with MK that dealt with these really vicious, um, God, I don't even know how to describe it. They were chupacabras, and this was here in central Mississippi. And these things, the interviews and the research and investigation that MK uh, performed, that he allowed me to go with and help him perform, we found out that these chupacabras are not your typical sad, poor, mangy dog / coyote hybrid. These things were monsters. And I'm 5'7", and the back of these things would come up to my chest. And these
Oh
things
wow.
broke into
On all four.
these things on all fours. It was two of them. We think it was a male and a female, but the male would come up to my chest. And
Wow.
I interviewed witnesses who saw these things, multiple witnesses who saw them. And these things broke into this poor farmer's uh, livestock bin and slaughtered hogs and goats on two separate occasions a year apart.
Okay.
And the description, when this guy was first talking about it, I'm thinking Dogman. It's Dogman. But then I had to rule Dogman out because these things were slick skinned. They were an ashy elephant grayish color.
Okay.
Um, but a lot of the other features were Dogman. They even stood up on their hind legs at times, but they didn't motivate primarily on their back legs or as much as your typical Dogman encounter and witness reports. But my point is, these killer chupacabras, as I refer to them, that got me thinking. It got me thinking back to Dogman. So I just dived off into the Dogman world, and I started researching and digging. And um, the place where I had this demonic encounter, there's 3 Indian mounds at this place, and I refer to this research area as the 3 mounds. And it's these 3 big, huge mounds that are basically sitting there in a triangle. And 2 mounds are like right across from each other. The big main mound is on the other side of this uh, access road. And the big main mound, both separately and together, MK and I have had some really, I mean, frightening encounters at that main mound. I really think some bad stuff has occurred on this big, huge main mound. Now, the other 2 mounds right across the road, when I visit, I mean, I'll go to all 3 of them. If I feel like I can approach the main mound, I'll go to the main mound. But if my heart and my gut is telling me you need to stay away from that thing, trust me, I listen. I don't
Right.
tempt Providence, because again, I've had some bad things happen to me on that mound. But at the other 2 mounds, I found some really huge canine prints. The I may say this backwards or forwards. I'm trying to remember the diameter and all. It was 5.5 by 5 inches, which is way bigger than your common, domestic dog. Um,
Right.
there are red wolves in Mississippi. They introduced them back to Mississippi a while back, and I can't say that they were dogman prints. I'd be lying to say that. If I did, I'd be lying. But they were huge. So I'm thinking to myself, either this, because where these mounds are and where the chupacabras, broke into this guy's, you know, pen,
Livestock pen. Yeah.
it's only like 7 miles away as the crow flies. So I mean that's spitting distance. So I'm like, okay, well maybe these chupacabras are roaming around these mounds. Maybe it is a dog man. I showed it. I showed it to some people in the dog man community, and they couldn't lie and tell me for sure either. But they were said, you know, they basically told me this: you got something going on there. And I agreed with them. I mean, when it comes to Indian mound, this is something that MK taught me from Jump Street. If you've got swampy wetlands, if you've got Indian mounds, you are going to have Bigfoot activity. You're going to have dogman activity. You're going to have paranormal activity, and you may even have something nasty.
Yeah,
And again,
could you do me what was the yeah, I've heard that before too. A lot of times when people are running into these things, it's always in a near river, swamp, water.
mhm.
It's always for some reason there. But what is if you don't mind, Marcus, what was the demonic entity? What were you referring to?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'll say this too. Most of the time when I go out on my excursions and all, I I go in the daytime. I'm not one of those guys, um, that can stay up all night and go out in the woods and roam around and bang on trees and stuff like that. I'm an early bird. I
Oh,
wake up at the crack of dawn, if not before. Yeah, military, and I'm ready to go. So I found out that I can have just as much activity, just as many encounters, document just as much strangeness if you get into your research areas pre-dawn, kind of let
yes,
everything kind of settle down, let everything settle down, and then once the sun starts coming up, then when you can kind of see and know what's going on, get out, walk around, start filming, start taking pictures and all. And I have found my two Bigfoot encounters, my dog man sighting, this demonic thing, all this stuff has happened to me from dawn to like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So I have found that I can have just as much activity in broad daylight as you can 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, to answer your question, I had gone out to these Indian mounds. I had the thought of making a little homemade documentary about this strange place, and I decided against it overall because if I put something out, people are going to know where it's at, and they're going to be tromping around. Um, the local people in the little towns, they're going to go nuts. They're going to get ticked, and I'm like, I didn't want to offend anybody or make people mad. So I'm just like, I won't do it. But anyway, that was where my headspace was at the time. I was out there. I was filming B-roll. I was doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that
right.
for this
Yeah.
potential documentary that I was wanting to do. So it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the three mounds, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and head out. So I get in my car and I drive probably about a quarter of a mile down the access road, and off in the distance there was this oil well, sitting there pumping, and I'm like, that would look cool. I'll get some footage of that, and I'll throw that in the documentary, some B-roll. So I park, cut my car off, get my camera, and I go out, close my door, and I'm leaning there on the hood of my car, and I'm filming, and I'm shooting the oil derrick, whatever you want to call it. And I got done. So I open up my car, I put my camera over on the front seat. I sit down, and I'm reaching for the ignition. And as I'm reaching for the ignition, in the back seat, right over my shoulder, comes this loud hiss. I mean, this demonic sounding, snake sounding hiss. And I'm thinking, the first thing that goes through my mind is a moccasin or something has done got up in my car, and I'm fixing to get bit.
Right.
So I turn around. There's nothing there. There's nothing back there. The next thing that goes through my head, I'm like, holy crap, I've done sprung a leak. One of my tires, I've got air pouring out of a tire, and I'm
Right.
fixing to be stuck here in the middle of nowhere. So I hop out and I go around. All my tires are fine. So now, mind you, I have not cut the ignition on. It's not the air conditioner making any weird, funky, funny noises. It's this. And I'm sitting there, and about that time, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and all that talking to preachers, all that talking to priests, all that talking to pastors, I knew what was going on. So I started praying, and I prayed out loud, and I asked, God and Christ for protection. Don't let anything attach itself to me or my vehicle, my equipment. And no sooner had I done that, everything just got light.
It's a
And
very
I
common
knew right then at
occurrence.
that point.
It's a
Yes,
common
I mean, because
occurrence.
when you look into and you study demonology, when you look into that, a loud hiss, is a surefire sign that you've got some type of entity that doesn't like you, and maybe it was just wanting. Somebody told me, well, maybe it just didn't like you being out there and it wanted to move you down the road. Well, I mean, hey, mission accomplished. I
Well,
got down the
something,
road.
yeah, something
I'm
climbed
done.
in your vehicle. I think while you were out there doing what you were doing for the documentary, something decided to
Yes,
either attach itself to the vehicle or to you. Probably
right.
you. I would say probably
Yeah.
you, and it just moved into the car with you. What were you? Okay, after you checked the tires, like didn't like this like dawned upon you? Was there a feeling of darkness, or like you said, everything lightened up? So what was the feeling like?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It was a realization. Because
Right.
look, here's what happens when something like this happens, Tom. I mean, like, my dog man sighting from back in November. You
Whoa.
Even though I'm an investigator and a researcher and all, you want to put things in a box. Your mind tells you, I didn't just see that. No, 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 no. I didn't see that. And you saw that. And I knew when this thing hissed, I knew what was going on, but I tried to rationalize it. And really, when you stop and think about it, again, as an investigator, you need to eliminate what it is or what it isn't. And I guess in a roundabout way, I was doing that. But when I you know when when I did the Sherlock Holmes things, when what you have left, no matter how
Right.
improbable, has to be the truth.
Right. That's
That
exactly
that
what was
was
going
that
in my
was
head.
that
Like Occam's razor or
yeah
something, I
that
think it's called.
yes. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So I knew what was there, and that's when that Bible knowledge and having faith and having a belief in something that's stronger and more powerful. That's when it kicked in, and that's when I prayed, and that's when it got light. So yeah, I just, at first off, it
What do you
was
mean you got light? What do you mean
no,
by that, Marcus? What do you mean by I got light?
because once I realized what I was dealing with, I just come out and say it. I mean, it frightened me. I mean, I'm not going to be no great
Nothing
big
wrong with
macho
that. No,
man. I
nothing wrong
mean,
with that, man.
it it
Nothing
it
wrong with
it
that.
it, it scared me, and it when I realized I was in the presence of something that was not good, it got heavy.
Got
It
you.
got thick,
The
and then like I say,
realization.
when the
Yes.
realization, I realized I'm in the presence of something that's more than likely unclean.
No kidding, dude.
So
That's a common
when I
occurrence. That's
prayed,
a common occurrence. I was talking
yeah,
to
it really is.
Daryl Denton. I don't know if you know who Daryl Denton is. He's a
I
Tennessee
know Daryl.
gentleman.
Yes, I'm
Love
acquainted.
Daryl.
Uh,
Yes, cool guy.
yeah,
And
and
he had to do that with his property.
Martin Groves.
Martin Groves, yeah, of course. Martin, yes, the
Mhm,
famous and the infamous
yeah.
story of Martin Groves in 1993 in the
Oh
LBL.
my
Yes, of
gosh.
course. Yeah, that's an
Oh
intent. He
Lord.
don't even go on there. He doesn't even go there. He'll go like, it's over there,
Yeah, he's
and get you close, but won't
yeah.
walk in the same area.
He'll
Yes,
point.
he's like,
He'll
because
point.
and
And
it's
I don't
really
blame
interesting
him.
too, because these mounds, I imagine you're like a burial type mound or some type of thing that's of the native people or something. A lot of times, like dogmen seem to, for some reason, be around cemeteries as well. Can you speak anything to that?
Yes. Well, I mean, I have not talked to anybody personally that have seen them in cemeteries, but when you look at again past researchers like Linda Godfrey again, in her book The Beast of Bray Road and some of her sequels, she talked about she would get reports where dogmen were seen in cemeteries. I think she even had a report where one was digging, like
Wow,
scratching and digging at a grave. I mean, I
how
have
is
not
that?
talked to anyone who has said, but I've heard of that. And again, you hear a lot about Indian mounds, and I've only recently caught on to this. I don't know how I missed it, but Martin revealed the campsite where him and his
And his
buddy
friend,
where they
yes,
were attacked. There were Indian mounds right in that immediate area. and
yep.
and, and I just caught that in one of his interviews, and Martin and I we're friends. We email each other a little bit back and forth and stuff. He's a good guy, and I've chatted with Daryl a little bit. But yeah, there were Indian mounds involved in Martin Grove's encounter. So there's something about cemeteries, Indian mounds, um, that that Bigfoot and Dogman
Yeah, to get back to
they they're
the
into
thing
that.
about about the praying and the Daryl was talking about where they were, the Bigfoot followed him home to his house, and he called Scott Carpenter, rest
Hmm.
in peace, and Scott Carpenter said, you
Yes,
need to
Scott
go out
Carpenter.
and yeah, you need to rebuke them, you need to go to the four cardinal points and rebuke them. And he said, then, because he was literally sitting in his house with like like a shotgun at his front door waiting for these things to come in, and
Yeah.
he had to go out and rebuke them from his property, because they there's another, it's kind of like the hitchhiker effect that you get in the paranormal stuff, where
Yes.
like they actually
Right.
will follow you home. This also happened to Tim Gayhart and his wife Renee in the Ohio Bigfoot researchers. They followed them home from Salt Fork
Yeah.
State Park in Ohio there, and they were like, yeah, there's only a patch of woods, and they were coming through, and they broke down the fence in their yard and everything. And it's incredible that it's very paranormal in the fact where people will be like, paranormal
Yes.
investigators, and they'll bring an item home, or they'll go there and like an attachment will happen. That seems to happen with them as well. It's just that's what we're trying to do too, guys. I'm kind of speaking to the audience here. Is like, this is a frontier of, like, not misunderstanding, but like we're trying to gain some type of knowledge and something that seems to defy like Newtonian physics. You know what I mean? That's
Hmm.
beyond what you can measure. Kind of like quantum physics, if you want to go that route, where it's kind of it's a it's incredibly mercurial, dark, but also odd. But there's like patterns that seem to overlap sometimes. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to the hitchhiker effect, and we'll touch on this for a minute. Um, if you've read the book skinwalkers at the Pentagon. You know, you
No,
had
I
these
haven't.
guys, these guys that were working for the defense, you know, agencies,
DOD.
and they're, yeah, the DOD, and they're living all over. They're in like Washington D.C., and they're flying out to Utah to Skinwalker Ranch, and they're having these weird things happen at Skinwalker Ranch, and then they fly all the way back home, and they've got dogmen showing up in their backyards. They've got poltergeist
Wow.
activity. You know, I mean, you know, it's crazy. So
Yeah.
so I mean, and you know, you've had dogman sightings and encounters, skinwalker activity at Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, when you look at the Native American situation there, you know, of course you're going to have that. But here's the crazy thing, you know, talking about, you know, the people who had the dogmen and these things, the Bigfoot follow them home. And this is something that Scott Carpenter brought out, and I really got into Scott's work. His work, him and MK have really just, you know, Ron Moorhead, their work has just really influenced, you know, the way that I look at and you know, conduct my outlook on things. But okay, all right, let's suppose you take the family, you know, on a 50-60 mile drive to Jellystone National Park, and there's, you know, there's Yogi, and there's Boo Boo,
I
and
thought
and
I
there's
thought
Bambi.
I thought you made a mistake. I was like, did he say Yellowstone or Jellystone? Is he talking about Ranger? Was it Ranger Rick? I
No,
can't
no,
remember.
I said no, I said Jellystone, but
Okay.
but but you know,
You just
you
rolled
go
with
to
it.
one
You're
of
like,
these parks. Hey, it is what it is, man.
hey,
You
buddy,
know,
that's what we do.
but 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 you go to one of these places 50, 60, 70 miles away, and you encounter a dog man. You encounter a Bigfoot, and you know, you get in your vehicle and you drive the 50, 60, 70 miles back home, and days later you've got things slapping the side of your house.
Yeah.
You know, you've got these weird crazy sounds coming from the tree line, and you're looking around and you're seeing the same thing that you saw 50, 60 miles away. You're okay. Again, if you go to that park and you see, you know, Yogi, you're not going to see Yogi 50, 60 miles back in your backyard. That's not going to happen. So
Right.
there has got to be some type of
Something.
paranormal,
Yeah.
supernatural, something at work here. And that's something that Scott Carpenter was way ahead of his time,
Wasn't
way
he though,
ahead of
dude?
his time.
I was talking to
I
Al
mean,
Santoriga. He's also the you know Al Santoriga, right? From
yes, yeah,
the New
Al,
York
Al is
chapter.
the guy who, yes, Al's the guy who brought me into the NADP.
Ah, he's the best, dude. I love
And of
Al.
course, you know, Jody and yeah, Al's a cool guy.
He was talking about where he found a den of them in a swamp in the middle. Once again, swampland. He found a den of them
Hmm.
in the swamp. He could see them, and next thing you know, this thing is under his porch trying to take out the back
Yeah,
door. And he's like, what the hell is going
yeah.
on? It's such a common occurrence. So you have to be like, if you're a researcher, guys, like, you know, if you're planning on doing this, did one of the new guys up and coming, and well, it's not up and coming, but a person who really is into it is Harley Owens. I don't know if you know who Harley Owens is. He's out there in East
I've
Tennessee.
heard the name. I've
Yeah,
heard the name. Yes, I have. Yeah, I am familiar with him.
he's a great guy, great dude.
Yeah.
I love myself some Harley, and he's been going into it too. But he I don't think he's had so much the hitchhiker effect, but he has had like strange like Men in Black kind of government
Oh yeah.
agencies contacting him, and I don't even know what is that all about. Has any of that happened to you?
It hasn't happened to me, and Lord knows I
Okay.
hope it doesn't.
Yeah, you can
But
either confirm or deny. You can also do that
I
as
can't
well.
even imagine. Yeah. You know, I mean, whenever I go into a a research area, and especially if it's a WMA or something like that, I make sure that I'm legal, that I'm doing nothing that will offend the game wardens and all that. I mean, because again, I don't want to do anything that would
Of
blemish my
course.
reputation.
Well, at the
And
same time, dude, you don't want to like
look, if
you don't want to like put yourself out there as a person who will do something that's like you were talking about, bringing, like, when you tell people where the town is, you have this experience and everyone's going to come there. You don't want,
Mhm.
if you really want to get into this, it's not like you tippy toe. It's not like that. You have to follow a righteous path and doing the things correctly. If you're going to do something, do it right. Like, do you know who Trey Meadows
Absolutely.
is? Trey Hudson is Mr. Trey Hudson.
Yeah, Trey Hudson, the Meadow
The Meadow
Project, if
Project.
my
Oh
thinking's
my!
right.
I had
Yes.
him on.
Yeah.
That dude is.
Man,
I mean,
he has
he
gone
is.
down some rabbit holes, brother. He has really gone down some rabbit holes. That his book just I've read it twice. It's
No
that
kidding. I
good.
had him on. And he went through. He literally went through step by step everything that he did, and everything written down, the date, the time, the wind
Meticulous.
direction. He's very meticulous, and
Hmm.
you had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to even go there with him. He's that kind of
Yeah.
guy, and I
Yeah.
think he
Yeah.
also a person who goes about it the right way, and that's very important. I think it's very
He does.
important.
Yeah. It is very important. And going back to the Men in Black thing, I've heard of just witnesses that have encountered these things, and the next thing you know, they've got these guys showing up on their doorstep, and uh,
Yeah,
you would have
you can't
thought that
go
that
there
went out
anymore.
with,
That happened to Al. That
yeah,
happened to Al.
you didn't see nothing. You would have thought that went out with UFOs and stuff, but it doesn't.
Nope. It goes with
I
everything.
feel like the government, maybe the government doesn't have the answer to everything, but they know a lot. And I don't want to get on the bad side of them, and I
No,
sure don't
but
want
you
an
got Project
MIB
Looking
encounter.
Glass. If you know anything about Project Looking Glass and what they did with that, with remote viewing and all that kind of stuff, you mean to tell me if they're using that to kind of like, to defend the
Hmm.
homeland or to know what the enemy's trying to do, uh, wouldn't you think that they would know that as well? But at the same time, the reason that they're trying to maybe, make you not want to go there, like by kind of not threatening people, but kind of going like, you shouldn't go there anymore. They're doing that
Yeah.
probably because if this ever comes to light that, for example, Bigfoot, you had 2 encounters, I'd love to go into that as well. And they're like,
Yeah.
it's then recognized by the government saying, because the UFO stuff is like still, working its way out slowly. They're doing their, they're kind of, tippy toeing through, like, little tiny Tim,
Oh yeah.
tiptoeing to the tulips, trying to
Little
get this out there.
little soft disclosure going there.
Right, bit by bit. That if they were to say,
Hmm.
hey, in the forest, there's these Sasquatch people, the forest people, uh,
Hmm.
what would that do? You know what I mean? What would that do to the revenue of the National Park Service and all the forestry units and the lumber industry and the environmental protection that they would come under? It's kind of it's not only like a thing where people would be freaked out, but it's also it has a lot is a lot of incentive, like economically, to not do that. You know what I mean? So it's weird. It's a weird thing.
Absolutely. And the other side of that, to go along with everything you said, and I agree with you. It would be catastrophic if people would go, you mean there's a 7-8 foot tall wolf like thing walking around out there that could eat me and my husband and my babies? Oh heck no, we're done. We'll go do the rock climbing thing in the mall. I mean, we'll be
Oh yeah,
safe there.
there would
So,
be.
but
Who knows
but
what they would do? Who
it's
right?
right.
I think there would be
But
like an armed groups of
the
militia,
other side
like
of it is, mhm,
sweeping the countryside
well,
trying to find these
the
things.
oh yeah, I mean it would be it would be the search for the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah,
let's raid the
that's a
castle.
great.
Let's just go crazy.
That was incredible. That was a
Let's get the
very
pitchforks.
yes, and the torches, and let's go. Yeah,
I mean, let's fire them up. I mean,
maybe in a way.
but
I never thought of that before.
what,
Wow. Maybe in a way,
what
like the
we
government
have to also
knows
wonder.
this. I'm sorry, we have a little bit of
Mm-hmm,
a delay in time, guys. No big deal. What maybe in a way they actually know this. This is just a theory that just popped into my head. It's or a hypothesis to be even
uh-huh,
better said, is that like maybe they know these things exist. Maybe they've even spoken with them, and they were like, you know what?
mm-hmm.
The best way to protect you is deny your existence, because if we were to like openly say that you are here, then you guys will have a big issue. So we're going to do our best to protect you by denying your
Yeah,
existence. Never even thought of that. Never even thought of
yeah.
that.
I mean, I certainly couldn't see that being taken off the table. And there may be other things that the government knows about these creatures that it's like the UFO thing. The Air Force will never tell you we're in complete control of what's in our skies. The Chinese balloon thing proved that. You know,
The
we
drone
got
thing in
Chinese
Jersey.
balloons flying over.
The drone thing in
Yeah, the
Jersey is
drone
even a
thing. I
better
mean,
example.
I don't
Yeah.
think we've. Yeah, I mean, have we really got a straight answer about the drone thing in Jersey?
Nope.
I don't think so. But they are not going to admit to the public, we can't do nothing about these creatures that are out there in your woods. And hey, guess what, folks? Like what happened with me out there on that access road. There's things out there just as bad, if not worse, than the Bigfoot and the Dogman.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you stop and think about the spiritual, the paranormal world, other dimensions, demonic entities, ultra
Possession.
terrestrials, right? I mean, I don't think your government's going to come out and go, "Hey, folks, we got you."
No,
It's
because you have to project power. If you're
right
United States, the most
and
powerful country in the
confidence.
world, right? You have to project power and confidence by saying we know. But at the same
Hmm.
time, they could also, you know how they are. Who knows what they're into? If like if as I hypothesized, like they're in connection with them, because like these Bigfoot. There's the woo, and then there's the flesh and
Hmm.
blood, and I think there's a combination of the both. I think they're doing both of
I,
these things,
I
my opinion.
I feel the
And
same way about Dogman.
right, okay, we'll definitely get into that. But like I think that like if they know this, and they're probably studying them too, as a means of like one upping the other nations in the world who are
Hmm.
don't have their best interest of us in heart. So like they go, if this phenomenon is happening to us, and these they can step through whatever portals, knock on a tree, they can disappear right in front of you, and whatever else
Yep.
they can do, and create orbs and mind speak and disappear and this, that, and the other. What do they have that we do not know about, and how can we benefit from them? I think that might be another part of it.
Well, I'm not sure if you are familiar with it. I bet you are. But um, way back when the UFO phenomenon, hit, coming out of the late, 40s and going into the 50s and the 60s and all, the government, all of your alphabet soup agencies, they wanted, and they put teams in the field to figure out what are these things flying around in our space. Well, um, if you think that the CIA was sitting there going, "Nah, we'll let the FBI, we'll let the Air Force, we'll let them tend to that," that they were just going to sit around and go, "Ah, we'll let them figure it out." You're wrong. I mean, the CIA, and this is documented. This is not conspiracy theory. There were programs out there that they were looking into to actually communicate with these things, and basically Tom, they wanted to weaponize it. They wanted to figure out, how can we use this type of vehicle? How can we have that? And how can we, how can we get that? And if there's something on board flying it, and they're able to do all these crazy things, we want to be able to do that too. And if you've ever heard of the Collins Elite,
No, I haven't.
it was a think tank that was, within the government. And these guys started out wanting to figure out, how can we weaponize this? How can we, how can we use this? Well,
That's what Bob
eventually
Lazar was telling. Wasn't that what Bob Lazar was talking about when they were trying to, like, he supposes that, they actually have these, and I kind of believe they do. My opinion, I really think they do. Roswell was whatever, but there's been many other incidents that they try to go ahead and then, like, whatever they say, I can't think of the word right now, but they look at the technology and they try to, like, break it down and then use it for back engineer. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for, or the terminology I'm looking for. Yeah, they're definitely doing that for sure.
Well, and if you haven't read Nick Redfern's book, Final Events, that tells the story of the Collins Elite and what the government was doing to try to get in touch with these entities. And, they wanted to be able to control it. I mean, they wanted to be able to utilize this for their own means. And, that's another story in and of itself. But again, if you haven't read Nick Redfern's Final Events, that's a really good book, and it details his research into the Collins Elite. And he met a pastor who was also a MUFON director named Ray Boucher, and Ray had contact, and eventually so did Nick, with the Collins Elite. And these guys, they were serious about their end game was, this is all demonic. We need to leave it alone.
Really?
And yes, and if you go back, you can check me on this. Go look at your interviews with Lou Elizondo. When Lou Elizondo left his position with ATIP, it was because this group within the Pentagon were telling him, this is demonic. We need to leave this alone. We need to back off of this. And that's why Lou, got disillusioned and ended up, part of the reason why he resigned his post.
That's
George
incredible.
Knapp reported this. Lou,
incredible.
And it was this fundamentalist group that was saying, this is bad. This is demonic. We don't need to have nothing to do with this. So, right. I mean, that gives you a lot of food for thought too.
It definitely does, because shout out to my buddy Jim Powell from the Fisherman's Bands Night Watch. That's his whole angle. He's a very devout Christian, and he's had like CE5 run-ins. Excuse me, we are in Mexico. Hold on.
No problem.
All right. Okay. They don't know what mufflers are here sometimes. And
hey, we don't either. We forget too.
Dude, you have no idea, dude. You have no idea. It's always noisy here.
I can imagine.
I can imagine trying to work night shift here. I don't know how people do it. I don't know how they sleep during the day. I really don't. But yeah, that's his whole angle, is that this stuff is demonic. You know what I mean? And I'm not Christian. I'm a man of God. You know what I mean? I have my connection with my creator. It's direct. It's fine. My girlfriend's, she's a devout Catholic. You know what I mean? That's all that's important.
Right.
And right, of course. And mutual respect and understanding. I was talking to her about the pine cone that's in, because Catholic Church is the original, the original cookie, the original Coke. And they have the big pine cone in the Vatican there. And that pine cone represents the pineal gland. And that's, Eastern mysticism and the seat of the soul. And that's everything I'm about. So it's like, okay, there's a bit of a crossover there. So we're talking the same thing, just from different angles. We're connected to God. But it's very important. But it's really to go back to the power of the power of the name Jesus Christ definitely holds sway over these these
It does.
things. So
It does.
why wouldn't they be then some type of demonic evil entity of sorts? And that's just that you said that to me, just you locked another piece of puzzle in my mind. And shout out to you, Jim. You definitely might be on something, my friend, if he ever watches this.
Yeah.
I'll tell him that I mentioned him, he'll
Well,
watch.
well, there's just there's tons of reports, Bigfoot, Dogman, alien abductions, where people have called on the name of Jesus, and it stops.
Yeah,
It goes away. Um, and there's been cases where it hadn't. So um, there's this is a
really.
multi-faceted thing, and it's
It's incredible.
I
This is
mean
why the podcast
it's
exists.
incredible.
Partially, I mean,
You
yeah, it's why that's why you do what you do and why I do what I do. I would love if you could shift gears
okay?
to go back 6 months ago to your encounter in November about what you seen and what you experienced.
Okay, you talking about with the dog man?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a place here in central Mississippi. Um, it's a big WMA, but it's also
What's a
just
WMA?
wildlife management area.
Management area. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that may
Acronyms get
be,
me sometimes.
it does. I'm sorry.
No
I
worries.
mean,
No problems. No
again,
problems.
it's the government and those alphabets, man. They got to squeeze everything they can out of those three letters and stuff. So, but yeah, wildlife management area. Um, there's a place called Sky Lake, and it's huge. I mean, it's some of the most beautiful lake area. Some of the best fishing. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Well, this is a place that MK took me to years ago, and he showed me a Bigfoot structure, and that's what taught me and told me, okay, there's Bigfoot back here in this swamp. So I knew from Jump Street, okay, this is a place where Marcus is going to be spending a lot of time. And over the years, I've
I love
gone
when
out
people
there.
speak about themselves in the third person.
Yeah, yeah. You know, maybe I
Sorry,
need some
Jim.
coffee right now. I don't
No,
know.
no, it's okay, man. I love it. I love it because I do the same thing. Tom needs to make sure I do the same thing, dude. I just love it.
Yeah.
It's funny sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah. So, but I fell in love with the place because it's beautiful, and and I can go there. I don't feel in danger. I don't feel threatened. It doesn't feel heavy. Now, have I had some things that scared the bejesus out of me? Heck yeah. I mean, I've had some freaky, strange, wild things happen out there at this place, but I've never felt that heaviness that you're in mortal danger. Like the 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 WMA where I got bluff charged and I saw the Bigfoot. This was in a matter of minutes. This Bigfoot trying to slip across the road. He come out of the tree line, cross the trail behind me. I just happened to turn and catch him. That place, which is over here a little closer to where I personally live, 50, 60 miles away. Um, the minute I hit that place, it's heavy, it's thick, it's the Bigfoot that are there. They don't want you there, and when they've had enough of you being there, they're going to let you know you need to go. I've been run out a couple of times, but
Okay.
Sky Lake is the opposite. There's weirdness out there. There's Bigfoot activity. Those chupacabras have been seen out there. Black panther, black cat, have been reported out there. I've had weird paranormal things out there, at times. I've had electromagnetical things. I've crashed drones. MK has crashed drones. I've had people go to my Facebook page and say, "Hey, we can't keep a drone in the air there either." So,
Wow.
Sky Lake, this whole area is just really, really, strange. But what happened was, I had gone out there just to hike, walk around, look around, because again, I found clues about Bigfoot being out there, and that's why I was there. I went out there because of Bigfoot. It's funny how I go out to places. Okay, I'm going today. I'm looking for UFOs today. And then I get some type of residual haunting or something.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
Or
That's
I
the
go
way it
looking.
always works, dude.
I'm telling you, that's the way it works with me. So anyway, I go to Sky Lake, this certain spot, and I'm walking along, and they had done some work. They had done some ground clearing, and they had cleared back a lot of brush up to the edge of the swamp, the tree line.
Okay.
And back over here was now, it was more like an open track. Right there in the middle of this open track was a big pile of debris. I guess they'd pushed up with bulldozers or backhoes or whatever. So I had been out there maybe 40-45 minutes. I'd kind of walked around, nothing weird going on, couldn't find no tracks, no prints, wasn't getting no weird feelings or anything like that. So I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna go down to this end and hike down here and see what I see. So I start heading in the opposite direction from where that little debris pile was, and I don't know. I stopped. I had to adjust something on my strap, and when I did, I kind of looked back behind me, and I caught movement. And up in the tree line, I saw something black, and it was jet black, and it's running, but it's not like wide open. It's not like just a dead heat. It's got a nice clip to it, but it comes out, and I'm turned and I'm looking at it now. I'm seeing this thing, and at first off, I'm thinking, oh wow, I'm gonna get to see a black bear, or some type of bear. And as this thing come out, the sun's over to the east, beautiful sunshiny day, broad daylight, about 9 o'clock or so in the morning, pristine, cool, and this thing comes running out, and Tom, it was fluid, it was graceful, it wasn't
Right.
loping, like a bear would or anything like that.
Right.
It's
I've
on
heard this
all
before.
fours. It was on all fours, and it was just really graceful. And the more I looked at it, I'm like, the head, it was a canine head, tall, pointy ears, like something off of Batman's cowl.
Okay.
Tall, pointy ears, had the snout, had the canine dog looking snout, and and this may sound weird, but the head, the snout, the ears, and the back legs. That's what I remember the most. I don't hardly remember anything about the front legs. Paws, hands. I can't tell you. About, for whatever
Right.
reason,
Right.
I
Right.
can't tell you about that
No,
part.
it makes sense.
I didn't see a tail. I didn't see a tail. Um, the back end, kind of to a degree, it I don't know. It seemed a little sloped, kind of hyena-ish, but it wasn't like a hyena. But
That's interesting.
maybe
That's the
because I didn't
second
see a
time.
tail.
That's the second
You know,
time now. Because I was just talking to a gentleman. Do you know Robert Prevo? He is the Dogman representative from Arkansas, and he
yes, and
hit
you're
his,
right. It
his
was Robert you talked to.
yes, and his theory is that these are more of a hyena than they are a dog.
Hmm?
That's his idea, his hypothesis, and he spells out on the episode, guys. You can go check into it. But it's the second time now
Okay.
that just the word that word came out of your mouth, that you said
Yeah.
hyena,
Yeah.
just made tingle down the back of my spine
Yeah.
now. So this is interesting. Interesting. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Well, like I say now, no, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'm not saying that this thing looked like a hyena, because it didn't. It just the butt end kind of for some reason just spelled hyena.
Yeah,
I'm really
sure.
not sure about that, but this thing was jet black. It had short hair, but it was fully covered. I couldn't see no skin or anything like that. But again, what it comes running out on all fours, and I'm looking at this thing, side on from the side, so I'm getting a really good look at it. It goes in behind the debris, and where I was standing, there was a little, I don't know. It wasn't like a bush. It was like a skinny little tree, a sapling or something.
Okay.
And when it went in behind the brush pile, I didn't see it again. But here's what's strange about it. Right up from the debris pile is a cemetery, an ancient old little cemetery.
There it is again.
That's right by the road. So we got this thing goes running like it's gonna. I am assuming that it ran up toward the cemetery. I don't know what happened after it got behind the brush pile. But when
Right.
it did, a deer that was either in the cemetery or right at the base of the cemetery, it comes running out in the opposite direction and runs up into the swamp. So the dog man is going this way, deer comes this way. I suspect that the dog man might have been trying to grab breakfast. I don't know.
Maybe.
It might have just
Or
been
just
ticked
spooked it.
off, and you know what? Yeah, and spooked it. It might have just been, everybody refers to dogman as being, jerks. They're the cryptid a-holes,
Yeah. I've heard of it.
of the
Yes.
cryptid world. And because they always have a bad attitude, you never hear about a good, dogman encounter. They're all ticked off, it seems like. But uh, this deer, whatever this thing was, and again, I'm my vote is going to be dogman. This deer didn't want no part of it. It got up and hauled it out of there, and and you know what Marcus does? He just hikes on over to the other side. He just, I'm like, I I think at first again I was like, no, I didn't just see a dog man, you know. But the more I thought about it as the days and the weeks went by, I was like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
You know what it wasn't. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't, it wasn't a bear. It wasn't a deer because you saw the deer.
Right.
So again, I realized it was a dog man. And
Man.
again, that's not surprising because what we're learning, where there's Bigfoot, now there tends to be dogman activity.
Yes.
And when you got swampland, wetland, you've got weird. I mean, look, there's a cypress place out there. These cypress trees are thousands of years old. You're talking about a cypress tree that's as big around as my bedroom here, the base of them. If you were a cryptid or something like that, why would you not? You got plenty of water, you got plenty of food, you got plenty of places to hide.
Right. Plenty cover.
I mean,
Yeah.
who's going to be able to? Right, nobody's going to be able to follow you when you decide you want to go back up into the swamp. I'm not going to get you. Now, some of you trained military guys could pull that off, but Marcus and MK and some other folks, we're probably not going to be able to go after this thing. So it's perfect.
But why would you want
yeah,
to?
that
Though?
was my dogman sighting. And
Yeah.
I've been lucky, Tom, because years ago my best friend, he asked me, he said, well, what are you going to do when you find yourself face to face with one of these things? You're out there looking for these things like, the goofball you are. What are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. And he said, well, do you want to see one? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I don't mean that again to be cocky or arrogant or, try to get on some show or something. That's not what I mean by that. I
No,
want to see it because that's what I do.
it's a
I'm
human
an
thing, man.
investigator. I'm
It's
right.
a human thing.
But
It's
but
like the
but but
first people who
what I
went up
told
the
him.
Amazon, the first people who went around,
Mhm,
Cape Horn or the Cape of Good Hope, or they went out to the Polynesian
yeah,
Islands. It's kind of like that. It's like, what
yeah.
is out there? And
It's
I want to see it. It's not supposed to exist. It makes so much sense. It's so human, but it's scary.
right. It is, and you have to be careful. You have to take
Agreed.
precautions, and that's something that I do. Um, in pretty good detail. But
Yeah.
my buddy asked me, said, well, do you want to see one? And I said, you want to know what my dream sighting, my dream encounter would be? And he's like, yeah, sure. I said, my dream encounter would be, I'm standing here and it's way the heck over there, and I get to see it. I don't get that in your face, traumatizing, terrifying thing that so many people have underwent. And
Yeah.
my three sightings, that's the way it's been. I mean, they were over there and I was over here, and
Have you ever
they
heard of
weren't mad at me and I wasn't mad at them.
Yeah, that's a yeah, like I'm kind of want to do it like Jurassic Park, but without all the dinosaurs. Like I'm in my little Jeep or whatever it was, and I'm just
Yeah,
kind of like,
you're
I see
sealed
it,
in
but
Jeep.
yeah, I'm good. It's there. I see it. I know.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? There's something I agree with that. But dirt. Have you ever heard of the? I had a gentleman called Ernie Daviau on, and
No, I had
his
never heard of him.
if you go back through my thing here, my whatever catalog, and you
Hmm.
listen to his encounter where he ran across the Bigfoot. He actually had, like, how would you say it, like hand sign verbal not verbal so much, but more like, I see you, like, I am not here to hurt you,
Hmm.
contact with a Bigfoot. It is utterly
Yeah, yeah,
fascinating. It's utterly
right.
fascinating. And it's I wouldn't say it's the final frontier, but, like, because I don't want to go into space. I'd rather find a Bigfoot in the woods myself before I go into space.
Oh, yeah,
um
by far.
yeah, I don't, zero G and, oxygen. I'm good. I'm
Hmm.
good here on Earth. I'm very happy here. God made this place. I'm good. uh
If you hey, if you're Katy Perry and you got the millions to do that, you go right ahead. You know,
that
I'll
was
be
really
down.
good, my friend.
I'll be
That was
down
funny.
here. I'll be down here with my Bigfoot, and uh,
Yeah,
I'll take that any day. You go right
yeah,
ahead.
this
You
was
you you waste that money, dear.
yeah. This has been incredible, Marcus. I appreciate you so very much for coming on the show. Could you please tell people
Oh,
one
you're
more
very
time
welcome. You're
how they
very
can
welcome.
yes, thank you, sir. If how they can reach out to you if they've had one of these encounters, and maybe you can talk to them. Please, one more time, go through your little list
Yeah, sure.
of links and stuff like that, your email, and then once again, you give them to me, and
Yeah.
you guys can go down below. If you're you don't even have to be in Mississippi. You can see that Marcus is a fine gentleman, a man of faith, and
Thank
he's
you.
open, and he's a well-spoken man, and he will help you maybe get through your
Oh
experiences.
yeah. Yeah.
Please do that for me, my friend.
Well, again, my you can reach out to me through the North American Dogman Project. That's NorthAmericanDogmanProject.com. I don't think well, I know they haven't. I still have to get them some data and a picture and some stuff for them to actually get me like on the website. But you can still report your sighting and your encounter. And with me being here in Mississippi, they'll get that to me. My regular um, website is www.unexplainedmississippi.com. You can reach out and contact me through there. My email address is unexplainedms @gmail.com. Facebook, I've got Unexplained Mississippi. Like we were going earlier, Tom, you see a pattern here. But
Right.
But then I just created the North American Dogman Project Mississippi chapter Facebook group. So you can find me, representing the NADP at Facebook through the Mississippi chapter, and you can contact me there or send me an email. And if you are, hearing me and you're in Mississippi, I know it's tough because people, want to, not take this serious, and they don't want to, they want to pick at you and stuff like that. But if you're in Mississippi and you've encountered, Dogman or Bigfoot, and you want somebody to talk to and get it off your chest, I'll be happy to listen to you. I'll help you any way I can.
That's fantastic. You know what I just realized, Marcus, that we didn't even go into the reason why I contacted you to begin with. We'll have to do maybe a live one day so people can.
The black box.
We'll go ahead.
We forgot all about that.
We'll set up an appointment. Do you have Fridays? How are you looking on Fridays in 6:45-ish Eastern time? Are you available?
You want to talk about the? Yeah. I mean, I'm usually home, so.
Usually, okay.
Yeah.
We'll make a date. Okay.
You want to set up another date? We'll do it because I think that's what we were going to talk about was the black box, and that was in a WMA government, dude.
This is what, but like I was telling you before we started in the green room, this is kind of what we do. We just kind of talk. We have a conversation. We kind of direct a little ways, and then we let you go. And this is it's been a blast, dude. I want to once again we'll set that up so you guys can see that.
I can't tell you how many, podcasts and interviews I've done where we started out, we're going to talk about this, and we never talk about it. We talk about everything else but that. But
that's fine.
But I have enjoyed it.
I have enjoyed having you on, man, and I appreciate it so very much that you decided to spend your time with me. And dude, I hope that people are running across these things don't feel so alone, and let you know that even in Mississippi, because I don't hear much about Mississippi. I've heard Alabama.
No.
And I mean, I've even heard my first Bigfoot in Rhode Island. I was like, wow, that's incredible. And you should also check out the Arizona 4 if you get a chance. The stuff that they're running into in Arizona is mind-blowing.
Oh, Arizona's look, there's more stuff happening here in Mississippi. People are just they're hesitant to talk about it again because it's a southern thing. It's a Bible Belt thing, and
I have a friend down there.
That's what I'm trying to let people know.
I have a friend there named James R. Hood. He hasn't had many experiences, but he knows a lot about. Yeah,
I know James.
That's my buddy. That's a friend of mine. Great guy.
Yeah.
And I've had him on before. Yeah, we talk about anything. I just go, hey man, pick a subject and let's talk. And he's very well versed, and he's a sweetheart. And so you're the second gentleman that I've had from Mississippi that I've had contact with. And it's great, dude. And I appreciate it so very much. And I will set up that live and have you on again, okay?
That sounds like a plan.
All right, buddy. So I want to do my exit now. Remember, guys, we are the eye. We are aware. Love you all.
Thank you.